I was watching the UFC fights yesterday, and there was a couple of times where John Anik read a raid ad, which felt kind of odd, honestly. For me to like play raid as my job ultimately right now. I don't know, for some reason that just felt really weird, but I saw there was Raid Shadow Legends like banners in the cage and like on the mat, and they kept doing raid ads and playing raid commercials, and it got me thinking, because I've said a couple times, like if they don't pivot, if they don't start treating the players better, etc., they're gonna die. And I think ultimately that's got to be true. To some degree, that has to be true. But I think it should happen sooner than it apparently is going to happen. Because when you start to think about the amount of money in a deal, like a partnership with the UFC and Ronda Rousey, that's like on the one of the grander stages of marketing. You know what I mean? Obviously it can get higher, but that's pretty high. That's a pretty big number partnership. That is not the type of partnership that a dying franchise or game would be able to make. You know what I mean? I still think that on principle, like in theory, ultimately, I think I am right. I think that this can't be sustainable, but it must be for longer term than I want to give it credit for. Like, I'm right about them being shitty. I'm right about the game not being in a good place and apparently not heading to a good place anytime soon. All of those things I think I'm still correct about. But like I said, if they don't make some changes, this could be a rough year for them. Apparently that's not true. Apparently money's still pouring in. You know what I mean? You would have thought... I don't know what ended up happening ultimately with the Russian player base. I know they banned them for a bit. I don't know if the Russian player base found a way around that. I don't know if they lifted the ban. I don't know what's going on with all of that, but I would have thought that would have hurt them quite a bit. But apparently not. Again, apparently not. They seem to be thriving. And I don't know. I thought that was really interesting. That was a really interesting, like... an interesting thing to see. I remember when I first got to Australia, I was out one day and I kept seeing Diablo Immortal ads. This was not long after Diablo Immortal had come out. And I guess it was a little bit of time after it came out, but it wasn't super long after Darth kind of became the Diablo Immortal creator, right? He's kind of the main Diablo Immortal creator at this point. And I remember thinking, that's kind of neat. Like, I'm seeing banners for this game on buses and billboards and shit. And like, I'm friends with the main creator for the game. And then now I'm seeing raid ads in the UFC. And it's like, I'm one of the guys. I'm a relatively notable name in Raid Shadow Legends at this point. It was interesting. But again, also interesting to think about the fact that like they must be thriving, which again gives them probably no reason to think that they need to do anything different. I left a message in the content creator chat the other day, because a couple people had mentioned what was going on, and I left a pretty like scathing message that a lot of people, it got a few reactions. I'll just read it to you. It said, "It's hard to imagine they aren't intentionally bad at this point. The 4th anniversary is a total joke, somehow worse than the 3rd. The difficulty of fusions is all over the place and seems to have nothing to do with the quality of the champ. Not to mention, after 4 years, we're still just doing 2 rounds of the exact same events for every fusion. There's no continuity behind how many shards a guaranteed champ event cost, pack value is awful, etc., etc., etc. At some point, they'll start losing players faster than they can buy them / trick them into playing with fake ads." I left that there for Plarium to read, kind of intentionally. That was really more for Plarium than anyone else. And I think it's a sentiment that a lot of people share. It is almost infuriating, honestly, that the game is doing so well, considering how awful Plarium is. It's frustrating to see them succeeding so well. It's the equivalent of watching a YouTube channel who constantly just lies in their title and thumbnails, doing millions and millions of views every video. You know what I mean? Or like fake prank channels, or you know what I mean? It's the equivalent of watching someone like that be successful. Someone with no integrity, no... You know what I'm saying? It just bothers me, which is strange because it benefits me that it does well. Obviously, the better Raid does, the better I have an opportunity to do in this space. But I almost would just rather them fail at this point. On principle. Obviously, I don't want my fellow creators to like lose their jobs or have that taken away from them or anything. What I really want is for Plarium to stop sucking so bad at this. From our perspective. From a business perspective, apparently, they don't suck at this. And that's, I mean, we've known that. We've known they make a lot of money. But I kind of thought it must be slowing down or something. But apparently not. So I don't really know what it takes. The only thing they've ever really cared about was the 1-star review bomb. And I don't even recall that manifesting a lot of change. Ultimately, momentarily, it had a huge impact, right? It seems, at least the timeline lines up, that it seems to have resulted in a new CEO. You know what I mean? I don't know if that's true, but the timeline certainly would suggest that resulted in a new CEO. That the shareholders or whatever were like, hey, what the hell's going on? And got someone else in. And for a minute, it seemed like things were going to turn around and get better. And now they're arguably worse than ever. Pack value seemed like it was headed in a good direction at some point. And then now we're kind of back at square one where they still think one sacred's worth $30 again. You know what I mean? It's like the packs are awful. The events are boring. They keep bringing out new events, but it's really the same shit we've been doing with a different user interface. It's really not anything new or innovative. I don't know, man. The only thing they're doing good, in my opinion, is the champs that they're putting out are pretty good and pretty interesting. Like, they've done a pretty good job of coming up with new ways to introduce hits and kind of introduce new mechanics and stuff. I think for the most part, they've done a decent job at that, which is something that's pretty difficult to do. So it makes me think there's competence on some level somewhere. Somewhere someone understands this. It's hard to imagine that they are focused on making the game good overall. I don't know. I don't know what the deal is, honestly. It's a very confusing candidate. Still, in all my years of playing these games, it's the most confusing overall. I've seen some confusing shit too. Awakened Chaos Era is up there. Awakened Chaos Era is kind of an enigma. That'll make you sit and think for a while. Calibria was odd. But I don't know, for Raid for Plarium to behave the way that they do and make the decisions that they make and to be so successful in a manner that seems to just continue to scale up, I think might be the most confusing thing I've seen in all my years of playing these games. And it's pretty frustrating to watch, honestly. I don't know. I guess I just thought that was interesting to talk about for a little bit. Let me know. Did you watch the fights? Did you see the raid ads? What did that feel like to you? I don't know if it feels the same as a player, like as it does as a content creator, but it was kind of strange. Not negative, not a bad thing. Just it felt odd. Yeah, I don't know. I guess I don't have anything else to say. It's been a very interesting ride to watch them continue to succeed in spite of like less than 10% of of what seemed like good choices for the game, ultimately overall. But that's it. I guess I'll get out of here. I don't even know what to ask you guys. It's kind of an all over the place thought. I guess just comment whatever you feel compelled to contribute to the conversation. It'll be interesting to know what you guys think about all that, especially if you watched the fights and had some thoughts about the raid heads, because that was a wild experience. But anyway, that's it. Guess I'll get out of here. Later, guys.